This panel that's coming up right now, you guys can come on up. This panel that's coming up right now, okay. This panel right now that's coming up are super special to me. So I'm really excited to be able to introduce them to you. I'm going to start, a lot of you know Craig LePage, my business partner. He crushes it. He runs our incredible team. He also runs Impact Worldwide. We co-run Impact Worldwide. He's also a tech innovator. That's how we actually became business partners, is because he's so savvy with tech. He understands marketing. He is one of the smartest, most humble, and very stoic guys I've ever met. If you have a problem, you can go to Craig and he'll just look at you and listen, take it in, and he'll usually have a great answer for you to help you resolve it. So I love that about him. That's been super valuable to me on all the years we've been partners. So thank you, Craig. And,
thank you.
This young lady right here, this is Tori Kaminski. Sorry, I touched your hair. But Tori is Tracy Diamond's daughter, who took me in when my mom was ill, and Tori did too, actually. And I stayed in their home, and they gave me a place of safe haven. But not only that, but they are incredible marketing geniuses when it comes to selling houses. And they've done a great job. They work in the equestrian environment. They're with Ranch and Land with EXP Realty, and they're one of the leaders in that industry for sure. And have taught me a lot. And this guy, this is Chris Fritch. He is an incredible leader. One of the most, he pours his heart into charity. He's a part of the St. Jude Foundation. I don't know how much money you've made for them, but a lot of money to help these children. He sends his team to St. Jude so that they can see why they're doing what they're doing. He hosts incredible events for his clients, and he's highly respected. He runs an incredible commercial division, and he's a heck of a mountain guy. We've ridden some horses together and spent a good amount of time in Montana and had some really great experiences. And he has a beautiful wife named Peggy, who I absolutely adore. And they have a great family, real estate family with legends in the industry, as far as I'm concerned. And then this guy, I know him because of him. My dad made us be friends. Yeah. And he's like, you need to know this Tessier guy. I was like, okay, Dad. He's like, no, seriously, when you come to Maryland, you guys need to have breakfast. And so my dad, if you knew him, he's as relentless as I am. And he was as
pretty
relentless.
close.
He was as relentless as I am. He said, Shelly, he called me up and goes, Shelly, you need to call Lee Tessier and we need to have breakfast when you come to Maryland. I said, Dad? I'm like, I will. And I gave him the yes, Dad, right? And then one day I called Lee and I had dinner with you and your beautiful wife and my dad and his wife. And we got to know each other and we became really, really good friends. And I have a ton of respect. He runs an incredible team in Maryland, the #1 team in Maryland. And they crush it in real estate. And every single person on the stage, they're so humble and kind and quietly just successful, and it's really, really fun to run with you, and I just love all of you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Shelly, for the great introduction. All right, let's get things started off. The first questions are about mindset, and the first question is, when a brand new agent comes to you and says, I want to be productive fast, what's the very first conversation you have with them, and why? Lee, why don't you start it off?
So usually I talk about business planning first of all. So I want to see what their 5-year goal is. Jay was talking earlier, it's like everybody's got different things of success, definitions of success. So let's figure out what they want first of all, but then let's lead in with, when the first week on the team, they're making 200 calls a week, because if they're afraid of the phone, they're in the wrong business. And then I'll give you a quick example. I had one of my agents, been with me for a few years, young guy, 26, struggling, because he was focused on too many different things. And I was like, let's go back to basic. And he was making 300 calls a day, but he was doing batch leads and just calling unfocused. So I said, look, let's go back to making, how many calls can you make a day? And he said, hey, I can make 100 a day. So I said 500 a week, held him accountable to it. For the first month, he was able to get 500 every week. Accountability, again, is a big thing of checking in with them, seeing how they're doing. The second month, he couldn't get to 500. He was only hovering around 350 calls. The third month, he was only getting 200 at the high end because he was so busy. And our average price point is about 400,000. He had at 90-day mark, he had 2.2 million pending, and he had 10 other active buyers that are out running around looking at houses that were getting ready to convert at any time. So it was just like these things work, just works. That's what I would do.
That's awesome. That's impactful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a little bit of a different start kind of getting into the industry. I started when I was 21. I had a couple jobs going on at the same time, and so as much as when I got started, it would have made sense to be making those 200 calls a day. It wasn't something that I was totally able to do. And so my advice to agents that are younger or newer or in the industry and have a lot going on is to find strategies that really work for your lifestyle and that you can keep up with, because it's an ever-changing job and market. And for me, diving into the world of social media and the internet was kind of the easy solution versus taking the time to make those 200 calls. So I started my business page early, and I recommend to agents as well, reach out to your people that you went to high school, college, post-college with, send them a DM, let them know you're in the business, and instead of 200 calls a day, it's really quick and easy to copy and paste a bunch of DMs out during your free time as well. So that was kind of how I started and how I recommend a lot of agents that don't have the time to do those 200 calls.
Chris, how do you make newer agents be productive fast?
Well, we developed what we call the Kickstart program. It's a 30-day program with our team. The newer agents, we all run through that. More experienced agents, there's parts of it we'll touch on. But when we get a new agent, the same thing that both of these two are talking about, a lot of those things are within that Kickstart. But first off, your sphere is the big thing. Get that in your CRM. Let everybody know you're in the business, like Tori said. And find out what your niche is, what you're really good at. Some people are great at door knocking. Some people are great at cold calling. Some people are great at open houses, or whatever it may be. Find out what that is, and then 10x that, and do it, over.
Yeah. I mean, what I heard there is fundamentals, mastering the fundamentals, but also finding out what your superpower is as an individual. That's pretty much what you all said in a different way.
And then accountability. Accountability is huge.
Yeah, accountability is big too. Yeah. Measure what you're doing, for sure. All right, our next question. What's one non-negotiable standard you expect from someone that wants to succeed? Something that separates the top producers from everyone else.
I'm happy to start.
Go ahead.
Sure. I think the most important thing, and this will carry you through the rest of your career, is that you truly do have to fall in love with this job. If you're coming into this career expecting certain results but aren't willing to put the time in, or you're in it for the wrong reasons, and you're not going to get the success that you deserve to have. So really fall in love with the job, fall in love with the core reasons why you got into the business in the first place, for the people, for the experiences, and the more you love this job, the more that it'll love you.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about you, Chris?
Yeah, you're right, Tori. It is a lifestyle, so you got to be able to accept that. It's not a 9-to-5 job. I think we all know that here. And at first, it's going to take more than just your managed life and things like that, where I can time block for this, and this, but really you're going to run rampant for your first, I did for 10 years when I first started.
Yeah.
It's crazy, but I always time blocked for my family, more importantly, and all my marketing, anything, I was like cold calling, anything like that, opens, all that stuff was in my calendar. Didn't have phones back then, but yeah, so it was a little different. But no, that's definitely just time block and stick to it.
Yeah, being organized.
Yep, absolutely.
How about you?
I think just consistent behaviors, dollar productive activities, and it takes a while for it to show up. We did this test. I knew it was what the outcome was going to be, but that 90 days, because it's not going to show up in a couple days or a couple weeks. And he wanted to quit in the first 30 days because he was so frustrated making the calls. But I think of on YouTube where she was saying 6 months with no results, and you're going to have sometimes that, but make sure you're making small tweaks along the way. So I think we do a lot with role play. We role play at least 3 days a week, but what you say really matters. So make sure you're if you're practicing with somebody, get constructive criticism on that as well, so you can make your small tweaks this out, and so you can convert. Because otherwise, you can do all the activities in the world and get no conversion. But if you make your small tweaks, you practice. Professional athletes practice all the time before they go out. They practice how many hours a week to play minutes in a game. But salespeople go practice on the client, and that's not good. So think of how many of you guys are role play. Does anybody role play in here? Good to see a few of you. But do that. You should be doing that several times a week, especially before you're going to be making outbound calls, and test. You know, if you have any recorded calls, go back and listen to them and see where your tweaks are. You know, watch out for weak words like maybe, and then you got the uhs, the ums, and anytime you have gaps in there. So if you can have 6 key points, we use LP Mama all the time. It's worked for 15 years plus that we've been using it. But just simple things, but make your small tweaks.
Yeah, consistency, master the skill, stay the course. I mean, so many times agents will be like, oh, this isn't working. Let me try this new direction.
Yeah.
And then a year later, they're like, why isn't this working? Because they never gave it time. So, agree. Let's shift gears a little bit. Skills and habits we're going to talk about. If you could only give a new or struggling agent one skill to master in the next 30 days, what would it be and how should they do it?
In the next 30 days, I think that especially as a new agent, you're given so many tools right off the bat that you're expected to use a certain way. And yes, they may work best in certain ways as well. But I think as a new agent especially, it's really important to take the time to implement those strategies in a way that just works best for you and your business. Personally, I don't like any CRMs. I don't like how they're laid out. I don't find it something that I'm easily able to use every single day. But I have a handwritten way of outlining all my clients. I go over it with myself every week. It helps me adjust my tasks for the week and expectations for myself. And at the end of the month, I make sure my actual CRM is up to speed. But you have to be able to leverage the tools that you're provided in a way that works best for you.
Right. Agree. Chris, what would you have an agent master in the first 30 days?
Again, it comes down to time management and things like that. Just be careful of what you're doing. Make sure you're spending the time where your skills are the best. And in the first 30 days, that's very hard to determine because you don't know what is the best. But one of our agents was Chad, for instance. He comes in and he's a very outgoing person and whatnot, but he came from the vacuum sales. He sold Kirby vacuums. He was a regional manager. So obviously he's not afraid of knocking on doors. That's his thing. So for the first 2 weeks, he went out and knocked on over 900 doors and got a lot of clientele out of it. And he's been with us for 4.5 months now, and I think he's on his 9th transaction already.
Wow.
A lot of it is because of that.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, it goes back to finding that superpower. Everybody's a little bit different, kind of evaluating who that person is and what they might be good at. How about you, Lee?
I go back to role play. I just think of, I had another friend that's in the area. He brought his team up, and I have 2 conference rooms tables. His team sat at one, mine was at the other. We were role playing out just phone call scenarios. Well, he stopped me on the way out, and he's like, he was like 6 months in the business. He said, man, I wish I was here yesterday. I was like, why? And he said, because I called the same buyer back like 4 times for all these different questions that I had, but would you guys just role played what it answered? Because it's a 5 to 7 minute conversation it turns into just from role playing and practicing. Because amazing what you don't know what your agents don't know, right? As you're training. So if you start role playing with them, you start hearing the questions that they're fumbling through, and let them hear other role play that you would role play with somebody else that's experienced in the team, because now they're hearing how it should flow. Now they have something to mimic. So, and then mirror and matching that, the words we're using, tonality, energy. I think if I had a newer agent, he was like hunched down on his phone, hello. And I was like, you sound like crap. I'm like, would you want to talk to you if you called? Because I sure don't. It's like,
your posture through the phone.
I mean, walk around, stand up, smile, put a small mirror in front of you, smile while you're dial. All those things make a big difference. Because if you're not converting, doesn't matter like how many doors you knock, how many people you talk to, now you still have nothing left. So that's where we've been role playing since 2010, and we've seen just such a drastic difference in conversion with new agents and seasoned agents, because you get rusty after a while, or the market shifts. So what are you saying? How are you getting people to convert with interest rates when they went to 8% versus now that they're coming down some? Now that people are getting a little more active. What are you saying? So there's all different things. You're not just role playing one thing. Do they have a house to sell? Are they renting? What's their current situation? So you keep role playing these through them. You give them so many scenarios, and they hear it over and over and over, and you don't know when they're going to get called on. So that's the other thing. Is like you better be paying attention. And then we critique each other also, because we want to hear what did somebody else hear because maybe I missed something and they picked something up because they just had a similar situation.
Yeah, and that approach is great for even experienced agents. They, you know, they hear things and they're like, I like that. I'm going to use
My top 2 agents are in all role plays, and they sell 70 to 80 homes every year each. So it's like they participate because they know they get better.
Awesome. Next question. What's the daily routine or discipline you see in your most successful agents? The thing you tell every agent in this room to copy tomorrow?
I think that this is something that everyone can and should relate to, is that when successful agents present themselves, they're available 24/7, and they have adopted the discipline to be available, not 24/7, but to be on call on the time is kind of all the time is kind of how I discuss my schedule with my friends, my family, and coworkers. I'm on call all the time. If you need to get a hold of me, if I know that there's something important going on in one of my transactions, I'm not turning my phone off at 8 p.m. just because it's nighttime. Like, I stay attentive, and I think that successful agents can agree that that is a place that is earned. You earn, you know, being able to go on vacation and shut your phone off and do your thing, but it's not, successful agents don't turn off, you know, always be available, always be on call. That's a huge discipline mindset that takes a while to learn, but it's really important.
How about you, Chris?
Well, that is important. I mean, everybody's got that's so important for the agent, but also I think a big part of it is to make sure that your spouse is on board, your kids are on board, you know, everybody that you love is on board too, because they're going to go through this too. You're not doing this all by yourself. They're involved. I mean, your dog, and look at Casey over there. She's probably wondering, well, Shelly, why aren't you petting me right now? But she's doing this. But so I think that's important too. I mean, make the commitment to yourself, but also make the commitment to your family, you know, as well. So.
Agree. That's a good one. Very important one.
Yeah.
Well, I think that 5-year plan, when you start seeing what you want to accomplish, make sure you're doing that with your spouse too. Because when you are spending a lot of time, or you're like in the middle of a conversation and you answer your phone, I used to get shit from my wife all the time for that. Like, you're not paying attention to me. I'm like, sorry, but you know, this helps fund us having extra houses and going on vacation when we want to, and those type of things. So, and then I think controlling our schedule, make sure when we role play, we also talk about, hey, this is the times I'm available, this time or this time, and 50% of the time people are going to take it. But if you just leave it wide open, all of a sudden now they're controlling your schedule, so make sure you're controlling as much as possible.
Right.
Can you tell that one of us isn't married?
All right, let's, next up we're going to talk a little bit about coaching, branding, and accountability. When you're coaching someone, how do you make sure they not only understand the advice, but actually execute on it?
Coaches?
I can start this one. So I think when you talk about, everybody talks about their why, right? And we used to do this a little loosely. I guess when you'd ask somebody, what's your big why? And they'd come up with one, and it's not very deep or anything like that. So I was at one of Brent's events in Scottsdale June, a few months ago, and Dean Graciosi was there, and he went in the 7 levels of your big why and how you find that out. I've done that with everybody on my team, and I'm telling you, it gets very deep. By the time you ask that 7th question, you do find out what their why is, and that gives you guys as agents, one, you know what, and if you don't have anybody to do that, find somebody that'll help you, your broker or a fellow agent or somebody like that, or your team leader or whatnot. But again, by the time you hit that 7th level of their big why, you really know what it is, and you can always revert back to that when you're talking to them, and if they get off track, you know, well, isn't this really what you wanted? Isn't this, I mean, remember your big why? Remember why we talked about this? And I think that helps a lot as well.
Yeah, it becomes personal.
It does, very personal. A lot of tears sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Powerful.
So I think of like with buyers and sellers, we're always trying to find their motivation, so that helps us later in a deal. Same thing with our agents. We need to find out what their motivation is, kind of like you're talking about why, and the things that you want to achieve and why they want to achieve them. And when you start digging and then holding them accountable to it. So when you're like, all right, I'm looking in the CRM and I see you're not making your calls. Why are you not making your calls? Because if you don't make your calls, you're not going to hit these goals that you set. This is what you said is important. Is that still important to you? And when you hold people accountable to that of what they said already. Because like people leaving a team, they leave a team usually because they've disconnected some. Oh, that's not working. The basics really work. You just have to work. And if you're not going to keep doing them and making small tweaks, you're just going to become unsuccessful. Because anytime I can tell an agent's going to leave my team because they've disconnected, they've stopped coming to role play, we see them making less calls and less calls and less calls. I was like, all right, they're going to leave, but let's have some conversation. And sometimes they're worth saving, meaning they're going to actually do the work, because this is not an easy business, right? I mean, one of my core values is grit. So if they're not going to have grit, why are you in the business? Because God knows we can get all the way up to settlement day and it not go through. How many calls do we make to get something to convert? You know, like all these, it's a challenging business. We don't get paid until it settles. So if we see that they're not doing the things, we know they're disconnecting, so it's just trying to pull them back in. Sometimes they are. You know, Brendan was the one agent I was talking about, got him to do that 90-day challenge with me, and now he's bought in, because he's the one that called me on the 90th day, like going, oh my God, this is how much I got pending already, I've already earned this much, and I got all these other deals that are in the works. And he was ecstatic. I could have left him alone and he probably would have faded out. But you have to have buy-in to your team, or are they going to do the things I'm asking, and I'm going to hold you accountable to it.
Once he broke through that wall, I mean, he's off to the races.
Yeah. And they have to know that I care. Like if they know I thoroughly care, just like what Chris was asking about their why, it's because we care about them.
Right.
You know, we're not there going, oh, we're going to X amount of dollars. Like that doesn't really matter. When you see and you care about somebody and you help get them what they want, when you help them get what they want, then I'll get what I want.
Right. Tori, this one's for you.
Oh, good.
You've built influence through social media while maintaining a high sales volume. How do you coach agents to leverage social media without it becoming a distraction from actual production?
Absolutely. So the background of this is that, again, I wasn't a good cold caller, I wasn't a good door knocker, but I was really good online and was consistent on there. And especially when I got in the business in my early 20s, I really treated social media like it was a job. Like I clocked in, made an intentional, entertaining post that required reaction, essentially. Knew to check in on that, and in the interim of it, I spend a lot of my time researching other agents from all markets, from all over the place. So there's a lot of amazing agents in general, but especially out on the West Coast, there's a lot of really fun, creative agents that you follow. You do your homework, you jot down what they're doing, and you relate it to your business, and you execute it that way. But really, in the beginning, I treated it like a job, and it is easy to get burnt out, especially when you're, number one, trying to come up with the ideas on your own. But one thing that really did work for my mom, who's in the crowd, and I, when the moments of burnout did come around, we did what all these agents up here are saying to do, and we outsourced, and we now have a full-time VA that's been with us for 3 years, and she handles a lot of the transactional related content, so we can focus on the fun personal content that gets a lot of interest, but definitely don't be afraid to outsource if it's not something that you're feeling like is a strong suit for yourself.
There's that leverage again. All right, 2 more questions we're going to do. We're going to do one about inspiration and taking immediate action. If an agent came up to you after this panel and said, I'm ready to catapult my career starting tomorrow, what's one action you tell them to take by the end of the week?
You guys want to start?
I think that if you don't know who to call, go in your phone, go A to Z, start dialing. Amazing what you'll accomplish out of that. You'll clean up your phone book, and you'll also talk to a lot of people, and you'll find out who's interested and who's not. But and make sure they go into your CRM. Anybody that is interested, or it's all about them. The more we can find out what's going on in our life, how are you? Ford, family, occupation, recreation, dreams. We had that conversation with them. It's not about us selling anything. It's just seeing how they're doing. Amazing how that business will grow over time. When you had said about cold leads, our cold calls. We don't do cold calls. I'm not dialing through a phone book or whatever else. It's mainly somebody that's reached out to us. We've got about 51,000 people in our database. So it's just following up on them. And the more we can dig with them to see what they have in their life that's going on. Are they, 5 Ds? I think of death, divorce, diamonds. Are they getting engaged? Are they having kids, diapers, all that type of stuff? What is your upcoming business? So.
Basically, Lee's my coach, so it's pretty tough to not say the same thing he's saying. but no, it comes right down to it, and that's a huge thing, just to dig into that database, make sure you have that in order, and your phone that you have right in your hand. I mean, people say they have a hard time coming up with 100 contacts. Well, no, you don't. Open your phone up. You got 100 just in your A's. So, I mean, just go through that phone and you'll be surprised how many people
Absolutely.
you can get in touch with. It's really easy, actually.
I think also something that's important for all agents, but especially those that are starting to feel a little burnt out, to remember is that this business takes a lot of time to build, and you have to enjoy the process of learning patience as well. There's so many hats that we can wear in this industry, and so in the moments of burnout and when you're feeling overwhelmed and like nothing's working, pick your 3 favorite things you like to do about this business when it comes to marketing or outreach or prospecting. They could be super simple, just reaching out to, again, your level A's, or something that's fun on social media that you like to do. Really lean into it, and it'll inspire you to get going on the things that you're having a hard time with.
Great. One other thing I would say, just one, we have 2 ears, we have 2 eyes, and we have 1 mouth. So if you're in person, make sure you're paying attention to what they're doing. Make sure we're listening twice as much as we talk. Because a lot of time with agents, we're nervous, and then you start talking, and then you're not asking a good question, where Kevin was talking about asking good questions. When you do let them talk, all of a sudden you hear a lot more, and you know how you can help.
Right. Great advice. We're going to flip to the last question, because we're way out of time. But the last question is, what is your challenge to every agent in the room for 90 days? For the next 90 days, what's the one thing you feel would move the needle for them?
I really think that we've had a lot of amazing speakers here today, and just people, I have met so many people in this crowd that I need to absolutely connect with, and so my challenge is to do the same thing. You meet 3 influential people while you're here, whether it's people that spoke or whether it's people you met in the crowd. Actually do more than just exchange contact information with them, get bi-weekly meetings on with them, learn about their business, and see how you can grow from it. That's what I would do.
Absolutely, lean on them. I guess, work on finding that niche. That's one of the hardest things to do, but when you do find that, it makes things a lot easier. And then 10X it, get after it. Don't ever quit, ever. Yeah.
I think everybody's different, so one of the things I would say here, because you've all heard a lot of stuff today, you're going to hear more through the rest of the day and tomorrow, so don't take more than 3 things away that you're going to implement, because otherwise paralyzation happens and nothing happens. So just take what those 3 things are. One of the big things for me would be making sure you build out your sphere. So we do a top 50, so who's my 50 people that I talk to every month? Because those are your cheerleaders that are going to refer you a lot of business, and it could be, if you're building your downline, what agents are your cheerleader to? So build that top 50 out that you're having, again, family, occupation, recreation, dream conversations, nothing about you. They're going to ask reciprocal questions when you ask how they're doing, how's your family, those things. But amazing, think of how many calls that you guys get every day asking how you are, how you're doing, how's the family. You don't get it. So when you start doing that, people pour back into you. They're asking how you're doing. And then when you talk to them once a month, amazing, you're top of mind. Reticular activator, we're top of mind for real estate. And now all of a sudden you're getting more referrals out of it.
Right. Awesome. So we're finishing up, I think, accountability, execution, consistency. Those are the things that we heard a lot in this panel, as well as many of the other speakers. Take a look at your notes. A couple people said this. Go over your notes when you get back. Find 3 or 4 things that really, really stick out and talk to you, and execute them. Because if you go home and you're all excited, you're pumped up, and then you get back in your rut, you're not going to get anything out of this. So I think that's what everybody's saying. Let's give a big hand to our panel. And thank you.